everybody, and welcome to another teacher talk session tonight. Tonight we are going to have another educator from different part of the world. And tonight we are going to have our 143rd session, and our guest is community manager ClassDojo and French teacher Bridgette Claery. When she comes, we are going to start our live session. Yes, I think she is there. And I'm sure that we are going to have a really fruitful session with Bridgette. I'm just waiting for the connection. Okay, now I have sent.
Hey,
Hello, Bridgette.
how are you doing?
I'm fine. Uh, can you see me?
I can. Yeah, can you see me? Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you clearly, but I can't hear. That's the problem that I'm sorry about it. Just a moment. I'm really sorry. This is the problem that I mentioned, but it's okay. I'm gonna
The
find a
video.
solution. I'm gonna find a solution to it. Just a moment. All right, not a problem. I can, if you can hear me, and I can see our screen on the computer. I
Mm-hmm.
can see you both of us. So if it's not a problem for you, we can continue like this if you can't see me, but I just can't see you, but I see you from
Okay.
my computer. Not a
Okay.
problem. Anyways, so let's get started. Okay, and
Sounds good.
welcome to our teacher talk section, Bridgette. I would like to say thank you very much for accepting my invitation for teacher talks. It's great honor to have you after a long time because I think we planned this before, but I think we were so busy, and we couldn't do it. And right now we can do it, so it's great.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like it was probably 2 months ago or so that we planned this, so I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so I know about you, Bridgette, but maybe our audiences would like to know about you. So can you tell us about yourself, please, and a bit about your experiences too?
Definitely. So I'm gonna start from when I was younger and just kind of take you through the journey a little bit about myself. So
Uh-huh.
I actually grew up in upstate New York and I always really loved language. I now speak
Uh-huh.
French, Italian, and English. And I remember that love started when I was in third grade. And a couple of high schoolers actually came into my classroom and they taught us some Spanish. And I remember they gave me the nickname Guadalupe, and I just thought it was the coolest thing ever. And I remember keeping those worksheets and those handouts they gave us for years to come because I just thought learning a language was really magical. Then in seventh grade, it was our time to choose what language we would be studying. And I was given the option of Spanish, Latin, French, or Italian. And I really struggled with which language to choose, but I eventually settled on Italian because actually I have family who was born in Italy. So I wanted to
Oh,
keep
nice.
those roots alive. And so I decided to study Italian. So I really loved every minute of my Italian classes. I remember my first year teacher, my Italian teacher in seventh grade was my favorite. She would really call me her mini me because she said she'd always see herself in me as a student learning Italian. I really loved the language. I remember carrying a little Italian dictionary with me everywhere. I would look up words and string together new sentences. I would post expressions on the walls in my bedroom.
Wow.
I'd read my
Nice.
textbook at home, and I'd even speak Italian to my little brother, probably to annoy him because he
Wow.
didn't understand what I was saying. So I loved language. And so when I was in eighth grade the following year, I decided to start studying French.
Wow.
And it was really unusual in at my school to study more than one foreign language. But I remember my first day of French class was just magical. I just felt like I was walking on a cloud. I just loved it. So I continued with both. I studied both French and Italian all throughout high school and in college.
Cool.
I also had the opportunity to study abroad. It was an unforgettable experience that I'm really grateful to have had. And my love of language turned into teaching. So I spent 5 years teaching French in my hometown of upstate New York. I have since transitioned out of the classroom, but I now work for ClassDojo, and I support teachers all around the world.
The
And
world.
I'll talk a little more about ClassDojo later as well.
I see. So wonderful. By the way, how many languages can you speak?
So I speak French, Italian, and English well, but I've also studied Spanish, I've studied Latin, I've studied Greek, I've studied German, I've studied a bunch of different languages, but
Wow.
the three that I speak well are French, Italian, and English.
So you're kind of a language master. It's kind of wonderful.
I don't know about
So,
master, but I do really love languages.
I see. It's a great, Bridget. Okay, so Bridget, my next question is, what was or were your turning point or points in your own
Hmm.
education? Actually, you mentioned a little bit about your background,
Yep,
but maybe you would like to say or add anything different.
for sure. So, I mentioned how much I loved languages growing up, but I didn't originally foresee myself doing anything with language professionally. I thought it
Uh-huh.
was just a passion of mine, and that passion wouldn't translate into a career. I was actually originally looking to be a physician's assistant. In my
Oh,
senior year of high school, I was preparing to apply to colleges that had that kind of program. And I actually had a lot of time in my schedule when I was a senior. So I decided to add an internship to my schedule because it would have looked good on college applications. So I decided to teach Italian with my favorite Italian teacher that I had had years prior. So I was able to walk over to the junior high school and help her teach.
mm-hmm.
And again, I just did this because I thought it would look good on my resume for colleges. I didn't think that it was professionally of interest. I just thought, oh, I'm going
I
to spend
see.
some time with a teacher I love. But the first day that I did it, I immediately knew that I wanted to be a teacher. I understood what this teacher had meant when she used to call me her mini me years prior. I saw myself in all of these students, their enthusiasm, their desire to learn, their excitement, and I loved it. And so that was really a turning point for me.
I see.
I
Mm-hmm.
didn't imagine myself as a teacher, and then I went to college. I studied language. I studied French, Italian. I studied abroad, and then I got my master's in education, and I became a teacher.
Cool.
So yeah, as I mentioned already, I was a French
Yeah,
teacher for
you
years.
mentioned it.
Yeah, and I
Wonderful.
moved to France 2 years ago. So I live in France now,
Oh,
which
mm-hmm.
was a dream of mine.
It's really great. So you are familiar there. So it's not a, I think you don't have any problem over there. You know the language, you can speak the language, and probably you know lots of thing about the culture, and
Yeah.
probably you had, yeah. Great, Bridget. Okay, so if I'm not wrong, you have been teaching for a long time, and after that, now you are working in Class Dojo,
Hmm.
and probably in your teaching career, you have tried different strategies, different methodologies, and different techniques in your classes, and
Hmm.
probably you have a philosophy. What is it? What is your
Yeah.
philosophy of teaching?
I think it would be really simple. I would always underline to my students to not be afraid when making mistakes, because learning in general is all about making mistakes and learning from those mistakes. And I think that is even more true for learning a language. I would always tell my students, if you look at young children and how they learn their native language for the first time, they're always making mistakes. And sometimes those mistakes are really cute and they're funny. And adults may laugh at those mistakes, but it doesn't stop those kids from still speaking, still trying, and still making mistakes. And so when we get older, we naturally become more self-conscious about those mistakes, but I feel as if we shouldn't be, because it's part of the process of learning. So as an
Exactly.
educator, I not only told my students this all the time, like, don't be afraid to make mistakes, but I wanted to really practice what I preach as well. I would tell my students that I also still made mistakes and I was still learning myself. And if I ever happened to make a mistake in front of them, I would always point that out. I'll never forget, I had created a worksheet, and I think I had made a spelling mistake of some sort, or maybe a grammar mistake. I don't remember what the mistake was. I made a mistake on a worksheet. And another teacher actually said to me, "Oh, don't worry about it. They're not going to notice your mistake. They'll never know." But I made sure to still point it out to my students because I really wanted to practice what I preached. I wanted them to know that I wasn't perfect and I'll never be, and I make mistakes. And even though I'm a teacher and teachers are supposed to be perfect, it's not true. I'm still human. We all make mistakes. So that was a little bit of my
Definitely.
philosophy.
Exactly. Thank you. Thank you very much, Bridget. And by the way, Azra says something here. Learning will not happen without making mistakes. Okay.
Exactly.
Thank you, Azra.
Absolutely.
Exactly. Okay. So as an educator or teachers, let's say, in our education life, we have lots of stories, like
Hmm.
some challenging stories or some bad stories or some success stories that makes us happy about it. Can you tell us one or maybe two success stories of yours? Something
Yeah,
inspirational.
for sure. I am going to share two. The first one would be from my personal life, and it would be me moving to France. Living in France
Yeah.
was a lifelong dream of mine to be here. I started preparing to leave years before I actually did, and it was a really long and difficult journey. And I'll never forget, I had quit my job in anticipation of leaving, and I was just waiting on some finalized paperwork that was taking longer than expected. And because of that, I actually ended up staying what was supposed to be an additional year in the US. But because of the pandemic, it ended up being an
Yes.
additional almost 3 years in total since the borders were closed. So after the world slowly opened back up again after the pandemic, I finalized my plans and I left. I moved with my now 15-year-old Yorkshire Terrier, my dog named Lucky Levi. So I moved with him,
Nice.
and honestly, I don't know how I did it. I was all alone. I was with my dog. I had all of my bags, but I did it, and I'm really happy that I did and that I'm here. So that was my personal success
That's
story.
very brave mo movement.
Thank you, thank you.
You're
My
welcome.
second success story would be from the classroom. So my last year teaching, actually, as I mentioned, I was waiting on some final paperwork before moving, and I got a call from a school in November. So it was already 2 months into the school year, and they were looking for a long-term substitute for their Italian high school classes. I didn't apply for this job. They just heard about me since through someone who knew that I was a French teacher who happened to speak Italian.
Uh-huh.
And since I didn't know exactly how long the paperwork was going to take, I decided to take the job. I decided to stay to finish off the school year and then move to France. So I did that, and it was extremely
Cool.
challenging. I was teaching a whole new language, and I was teaching high school now, which was very different from what I was used to at the middle school. So I was also filling in very suddenly for a teacher who was actually sick.
Sorry.
And it was a lot of change. It was a lot of stress for the students. The classroom dynamic shifted a lot. They had had this
Definitely.
teacher for years before me, and now I was coming in, and I was a totally different teacher. So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes classroom behavior, reflects that change and that stress, which is understandable. It happens. But it really made it a challenging point in my teaching career. Um, and I remember one student in particular, every single teacher had warned me about this student. They said to me, I actually thought it was really weird and kind of unfair to the student that they were saying these
Oh,
things
I
to me.
see. Mm-hmm.
They would say to me, he hates Italian class. He's the worst behaved student for all of us. Just kick him out. Send him to the office. Don't try to deal with him. They just all just warned me about this terrible student, and I just thought it was so unfair. And I
I
remember my
see.
first ever interaction with him. I was there with the other substitute teacher who was staying for a couple of days for the transition. And so I
Uh-huh.
remember I was there with her, and he loudly states on purpose so that I could hear him. He said, I really hope
Wow.
she knows that I chew gum in this class, and she better not to try to tell me otherwise, or I'm going to hit her in the face or something. He said he made some comment about hitting me or punching me if I didn't let him chew gum in class. So,
Oh.
yeah, I heard that, and I immediately
So
knew
challenging.
that
Mm-hmm.
this kid, I knew that this kid was in crisis. And he probably figured that I would hate him like every other teacher seemed to hate him. And he just was clearly feeding on that negative attention, and he was setting that negative stage for our relationship. It was like he was probably anticipating that dislike on my part, right? So I decided to go a whole other way with him. In that moment, after he said that, I very kindly and very calmly said to him,
Uh-huh.
hey, I'm here to talk if you have any concerns at all about what things are going to be like with me. So come over here, come chat with me. I invited him to come talk to me. He didn't, he declined. But I very intentionally in that moment decided to not react negatively and punish him, but instead I
Uh-huh.
decided to act with kindness. So there were similar instances of this student, pushing the boundaries and testing my reactions after this.
I see.
But I
Mm-hmm.
really think that he craved that positive attention and that care, but he had never received it from anyone else at the school. And when he realized I wasn't going to just hate him like everyone else, he really opened up to me. I became, his safe person to go to when he was in crisis in other classes.
Exactly.
He would get
Mm-hmm.
kicked out of other classes. He would come to me. He would come to talk to me in the morning. He just really opened up to me. And all the other teachers were just blown away by his behavior with me in comparison to all of them in their classes. And not only did he start to treat me with, respect and kindness, but he would actually do his work in class for me, even though it was his
Uh-huh.
supposedly most hated class. He wouldn't argue as much and fight back as much when I would ask him to do his work. But I do remember one particular incident. There was one day that that was really stressful, and I had had a bad day. I was really struggling with the behavior of students, and he was misbehaving a little bit. And I acted
Oh.
more strongly and sternly with him than I normally did.
Oh,
Um,
I
After class, he was really sad, and he was like, did I disappoint you today? Um, and I actually ended up apologizing to him, and I was like, hey, I'm having kind of a bad day. I'm no superhero. I'm not perfect. And I'll never
exactly.
forget,
Mm-hmm.
he looked at me and he said with a straight face, but you are to me. And I just honestly, like, I feel like I'm going to be emotional just thinking about it now, but I feel as if we sometimes lose sight of the impact that we have in our students' lives. That impact
Uh-huh.
really could be everything to them. This student was
Definitely.
struggling. He was in constant crisis. He felt he had no one at the school. And I was so honored to have been there for him when he needed it most. And I really just hope that in the years since I've left, some of those other teachers have realized that all he needed was someone to show that they cared for him, and to act kindly. So yeah, that was just a
Wonderful.
really amazing
Yeah,
success story,
I
I
can
feel.
imagine that successful you were probably, and your behaviors, your approach, your everything to on him, I think really was effective on him. So he kind of I think you create a different connection with him,
Yeah,
not
yeah,
like the others, not like the others. I
yeah.
see. That's a great
Positive
story. Thank
connection.
you.
You're
Exactly,
welcome.
positive connection. Thank you very much, Bridget, for telling us here
Of course.
that two stories. Okay, so can I move? Another question?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so probably until now you have, given different training sessions, maybe presentations in your education life, and maybe right now in these days also maybe you do that.
Mm-hmm.
And when you think about them, what was or were the most interesting situation or situations that you faced?
Yeah, I don't feel like I have any specific interesting situations or situations that I've faced, but I will say that it's a little more challenging to be presenting virtually, to not be seeing people's faces, or having any of that natural ability to interact with them,
Uh-huh.
um, as you know you would if you were in person, of course. So I would say that that's certainly a challenge that I'm still working through. I'm sure that you have experienced similar things. It's hard to not interact with people face to face and to be virtual, but
Exactly. Uh-huh.
yeah.
I see. That's it. Okay. Thank you very much. So it's not sometimes we have different, the situations in our, the presentations or
Mm-hmm.
our seminars or workshops. I see. Thank you. Okay. So I want to come to the real point about ClassDojo, that you
Yes.
are the community manager. So maybe it's really the favorite in education, but maybe, even ClassDojo, lots of, the educators, teachers know, but there are still lots of teachers and educators has no idea what is
Mm-hmm.
ClassDojo. So what is it? What is ClassDojo and how does it
Yep.
work?
Yeah. So ClassDojo is a global community of more than 50 million teachers and families who come together to share kids' most important learning moments in school and at home. They do that through photos, through videos, through messages, and more. So teachers are able to connect on ClassDojo, their students and their families to their classroom and to their school, and they're able to share updates, messages, videos, photos of what's going on in the classroom. And it's also a really powerful classroom management tool. Teachers are able to reward points for positive behavior, and families are able to keep track of that behavior
Mm-hmm.
in the classroom.
I see. It's a really great tool. Yeah, I can say that. Okay, my another question about it. How user-friendly do you find the platform for teachers, students, and especially parents?
Yeah, I feel as if it's extremely user friendly. And, we always aim for it to be easy to use for students, teachers, and families. And we work closely with both our mentors and our ambassadors and other teachers by showing them early stages of new features and making sure it makes sense to them, it's useful to them, it's easy to
Uh-huh.
use. And we've actually even visited classrooms and done product testing in action live with real students to make sure that all is running smoothly. We also regularly interview teachers, families, and senior leaders to help inform and make changes to our product. So I feel as if
Mm-hmm.
it's really easy to use. What do you think? Is it easy for you?
Yeah, that's definitely easy to use, especially for us as
Yeah.
educators. It's lifesaver, and for students, it's a kind of they love during their
Mm-hmm.
lessons. They love it. They really love. For example, we have a kind of a smart board, and really sometimes we tell them, okay, go and give your points about
Mm-hmm.
like you do your homework. They run to the smart board, and they just click on the homework, and they hear the bling that voice,
Yeah, the
and they
sounds.
become really happy about it. That's
Yep.
really put them into the lesson. They become really
Yep.
happy to get that positive, the
Yep.
points from the class dojo. I think kind of, they take their attention, that sound like
Yes,
ding. They know it. It's really wonderful. And for
for sure.
parents, it's really great tool to follow their
Mm-hmm.
kids and when they are at school, what
Yep.
they do. For example, will they take the positive points or will they take
Mm-hmm.
negative points? Do
Mm-hmm.
they do their homeworks or not? Or how do they behave at school? Or do they have any problem with friends or at school or teachers? They directly at that time they get the feedback,
Yep.
class dojo. So that's really wonderful
Yep.
things that
Yeah,
the
that immediate
parents can
feedback,
use it.
for
Exactly.
sure. For sure.
Okay. So another question is about, take the students' attention.
Mm-hmm.
That's really important. And how does ClassDojo promote student engagement?
Yeah, so I would say, we were just speaking to that one of the biggest ways that ClassDojo promotes student engagement is through the points. Just one tap, you mentioned, you hear a sound, you hear that positive ding. It's really going to help you acknowledge student efforts. It allows you to celebrate them as part of your class community. You're able to set consistent expectations across all your classrooms. For example, you can add being proactive or hallway manners or growth
Uh-huh.
mindsets. And then you're able to give them, specific positive feedback around your classroom expectations. So I would say that's one way for which we promote student engagement. We also have portfolios. I don't know if you've ever used portfolios, but it's
Of
a way
course,
for
I do. Mm-hmm.
it's a way for them to be sharing classwork, kind of a little digital way for them to be sharing classwork. Families are able to see that as well. You could be doing homework through there. So a couple different ways that we promote student engagement.
But sometimes they send really weird portfolios. When you see them, you laugh.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can see the unexpected things from them. Wow, what is it? Or maybe sometimes you need to delete. Okay, so this is not suitable for the class. You leave
They
it
can be
there. But
creative.
that's
They can be
really,
creative.
yeah, okay, they're creative. But they're really creative, the kids.
Yeah.
Especially, I forgot to ask you about the island. Yeah, can I ask you a
Hmm.
question about the island? Can you
I
maybe,
think
if
I
I'm not
mentioned
wrong,
it. Yeah. We
yeah,
can talk
if you
about it.
can mention about it little
Yeah.
bit, we can be really happy about it because that's kind of the
Yeah.
game, or maybe they like it's kind of, you know, a little bit Minecraft, Roblox, just like
Yes.
that kind
Yeah.
of the game
Hmm.
there that they can create their island and they walk and they play with their friends. So can you just give about what is this island?
Yeah. It's one of the upcoming features that I'm most excited about. So yeah, I'm really excited about Dojo Islands. So what it is Dojo Islands is a virtual world that can deepen your impact through a learning experience that kids love. So it's a safe place made just for them. You mentioned that it's similar to Minecraft or Roblox, but it's private just to the classroom. So it's a safe place for them. Your students can grow in their favorite way, which is through play. So some classes play on Dojo Islands together during their free time or when classwork is done, as a way to keep learning and growing together. They could be working on um, their uh, skills to work together, right? Collaborative working skills. And it's just, we have a lot of supplementary materials for Dojo Islands as well that can be found on Mojo's
Exactly.
Activity Corner. So check that out on our website. There are a ton of free printable resources there for both Dojo Islands and outside of Dojo Islands.
It's wonderful. By the way, there are some, if I'm not wrong, there are from time to time there are some competitions that they built there. For example, their
Yes.
houses, their
Mm-hmm.
castles, or something related with different kind of a
Yeah.
team. You asking for that? Really,
Yeah.
really love it. Really, it's
Team
wonderful.
building, community building, for
Exactly,
sure. They work
exactly.
together
It's
towards a
wonderful.
goal. Yeah.
Definitely. Thank you very much, Bridget.
You're welcome.
So another question is about the parents. In what ways does Class Dojo encourage parental involvement in
Mm-hmm.
students' education?
Yeah, so I mentioned earlier about the points, and students receive them throughout the day. They're getting instant feedback as to what's going on. But the families, if they're connected, they're also getting that instant feedback as to what's going on day to day in the classroom. They're able to see their points. They're able to see why they
Uh-huh.
earn the points. And beyond that, we also allow for private messaging between families and teachers. So no need to send an email, no need to share phone numbers. You're able to message them through ClassDojo. And there's also something called Class Story. It acts
Oh,
similar
yes.
to a completely private Facebook page, if you would, for the classroom, totally private for the classroom. Teachers are able to post announcements, events, reminders, pictures, videos from the class, and families can interact with that through likes and through comments. So it's a way for parental involvement in the day-to-day activities of the classroom.
I see. It's wonderful. It's a really great features are there. And I
Yeah.
hope many teachers will or educators start using ClassDojo as soon as possible. If you have no idea about ClassDojo, you definitely go to the website and check it and
Yes.
start using it. You won't regret it. You will love it. Anyways, okay.
Thanks, Volkan.
And next one, another question about again for teachers. What kind of training or support is
Yep.
available for teachers using ClassDojo?
hmm So we do have a ton of training videos on both our website and our YouTube page. We do have them in Turkish as well. We also do run live sessions before the school year to get teachers up to speed with
Uh-huh.
ClassDojo. And we also have many ClassDojo communities on Facebook. So we have one specifically for teachers in Turkey that I would suggest everyone to join and become a part of. It's a really great place to ask questions and get answers from teachers who are using ClassDojo in Turkey. We have ambassadors who are, super users, super fans of ClassDojo in Turkey, who hopefully will be running some live sessions as well, some live training sessions. And then
Mm-hmm.
we also have our help desk on our website that is translated into Turkish as well, and it has tons of articles to help you get started. So I would suggest taking a look at the website and joining us on Facebook.
Wonderful. Okay, so thank you very much, Bridget. And are there any upcoming features or developments in ClassDojo that you are excited about? Actually, you mentioned about the island, but
Yeah,
maybe you
Dojo
would like to
Islands.
add another things.
Yeah, so I'm really excited about Dojo Islands. It's funny because it's something that's newer, and every time that I go in there, there's something brand new. The islands have grown. So we're really excited about Dojo Islands. I would say beyond Dojo Islands, I don't know if you've had a chance to take a look at Mojo's Activity Corner. We have a ton of free printable resources there, and we're
Lots
constantly
of.
adding
Mm-hmm.
new resources. And we're going to be working with teachers as well to publish some of their resources. So it's really nice to have a collaborative space to just grab some free printable resources. I know that's something that was always really useful for me when I was teaching, to be able to say like, oh, hey, I'm teaching the past tense. What worksheet could I find about the past tense in French? And then, find it
Oh,
online and
nice.
print something. So hopefully it serves as that kind of ability for you to just grab some quick, easy resources to use in your classroom.
I see. It's wonderful. Wonderful, Bridget. Thank you. And again, another question about ClassDojo. What do you like most working at ClassDojo?
Yeah, what do I like most working in ClassDojo? So I would say I love the fact that we have over 30 teachers who work for us. It's really important that teachers are informing and creating the product that other teachers are going to use. So I love the fact that we have a bunch of past teachers who are all working together to fulfill ClassDojo's mission.
I see. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much, Bridget. And if I'm not wrong, you have been working as a teacher, like
Mm-hmm,
French teacher. Now, right now, you are not working as a teacher. You are working in class at
mm-hmm.
ClassDojo as a as a just a moment.
Community manager, yep.
Yeah, as a community manager. So sorry about it. As a community manager, do you miss? My question is about the classroom. Do you miss
Yeah.
being in the classroom as a teacher, or you like right now?
Yeah, sometimes I do. Yes, I do miss being in the classroom at times. However, I will say that Class Dojo's mission is to give every child on earth an education that they love. So I really feel as if I'm still making a difference in the lives of teachers, students, and families alike. But this time I'm able to have an impact across the world. So I do really love that. It's really important to me that I'm still making a difference in students' lives. And now I'm able to do
Uh-huh.
that with millions of lives. So
It's great, really. Thank you, Bridget. And I want to ask you another question. Do you need to travel to different countries about Class Dojo?
I
Or you
do.
just
Yes, I do travel. Yeah. Next month, I'm going to be at Bet UK. So if anyone's in London next month,
oh
at the end of January for Bet UK, the huge education conference, let me know. Class Dojo is going to be
wow.
there. So come say hi to us.
Well, wonderful. So great news for them. Don't
Yeah.
forget to visit ClassDojo
Yes.
and when you are there next month. Okay. And Bridget, so that's all about my ClassDojo, all right?
Hmm.
So I think we talk a lot about it. So let's move to another question. By the way, how's it going? I hope you're not boring
No, I'm good. I'm
about it.
good.
It's okay. So far, so good. Wonderful. Okay. And in your opinion, what is the most rewarding aspect of teaching?
Yeah, so I think that for me, the most rewarding part was always seeing my students' excitement, their enthusiasm for learning language. I taught beginners mostly, so everything was new for them, and I was able to see their progress really quickly, and so that was especially motivating for both me and for them. And I always saw myself in my students and my personal beginning journey with learning languages, and I really loved that. So I mentioned earlier about how my favorite Italian teacher would call me her mini me, and how I reminded her of learning Italian, and I felt that way with so many of my students, right? Like I saw myself in them. I saw how excited they were, how enthusiastic they were. They're playing with language. They're, taking new vocab words and making new sentences. And I really love that.
I see. There's a comment, by the way, and I think says that I'm sorry, but I cannot hear any French accent. Am I the only one who cannot get it? By the way, I don't love the French accent. By the way, she's not French. Maybe you would
Yes.
like to say something about it.
So I live in France now. I've been here for the past 2 years, but I was born and raised in upstate New York, so I am American. So that is why you hear an American accent.
That's why you can't hear any French accent.
Yes, yep.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. Thank you, Bridget. Okay, so there are lots of the teachers, the new beginner teachers
Hmm.
that they're teaching their careers. So, what advice would you give to new or aspiring English language teachers
Hmm.
or any other language teachers, of course, or maybe general teachers who are just starting their teaching career?
Yeah, so I would say, one thing that I realized, I had, of course, became an advanced speaker of French, and then I started teaching it, and I almost forgot what it was like to be a beginner again. And I felt as if that really put me at a disadvantage when it came to teaching beginners. And I'll never forget one time I was actually teaching a brand new verb, and I asked students to tell me any patterns that they were seeing in the verb. So I expected them to see one pattern in particular. It was the boot verb for anyone who's learned Romance languages. So whatever is inside is conjugated irregularly, and anything outside
Uh-huh.
is regular. But instead of that pattern, this student raised their hand, and he had seen a pattern that I had never seen before. And it was really amazing to me because he was looking at that verb with a fresh beginner set of eyes, and he saw something that I never saw, and something I definitely overlooked as an advanced speaker of the
Uh-huh.
language. And for those of you who are wondering, he actually saw another verb inside the irregular stems of the verb. I was teaching the verb aller, to go, in French, and he was able to spot the verb avoir, to have, in each of the forms, the irregular
Uh-huh.
forms, which I just thought was amazing. And so I would say, put yourself in the shoes of a beginner again. Try to remember the way that you used to feel and the way that you used to look at the language. Listen to them, let them guide you through their experience so you can see what it's like again through their eyes.
Wonderful. That's really great suggestion. Thank you. Thank you, Bridget. By the
Thank
way,
you.
there was a question
Mm-hmm.
from ELT Hub Turkey. And what is the event in the UK next week or next month? Can we join the event online?
The event in the UK, I don't believe there's any ability to join anything online. So it's BET UK. It's one of the biggest education conferences in Europe.
But
Um, yeah,
yes,
BET UK. It's the end of January. I believe it starts on January 23rd. So the Class Dojo team, we're going to all be there at a booth. So
cool.
if you happen to be in BET UK, please come say hi.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you very much, Bridget. All right. So now you are working in ClassDojo as a community
Mm-hmm.
manager. But how do you see yourself in 10 years? Will you still be this trainer, or will you
Yeah.
be community manager, or are you gonna try another jobs?
Yeah. So, I always want to be working in education in some way. So I always want to be supporting teachers and communities. I always want to be making a difference in the classroom. So what will that look like 10 years from now? I don't really know. But considering ClassDojo has a lot of amazing things on the horizon, I do hope that it's still with them contributing to their mission in some capacity. But beyond that, I will say that I have a personal goal to become a published writer. I have a
Cool.
book idea based upon my grandmother's life. She was born in Belfast in Northern Ireland in 1920. She joined the British and US Army as a typist during World War II.
Oh,
And then she immigrated to the US after the war in 1947. So I have this personal goal to become a published writer, but I've never written a book before. If anyone has any tips or suggestions, you could send them over to me. I'd love to hear them.
I see. It's great, great. I hope you become that writer in the future.
Thank you. I hope so too.
Okay. You're welcome. All right. The Bridget, in our life, there are some moments that we really think that actually difficult situations. And in that situation, sometimes we say, oh, I wish I could that power and I could do
Mm-hmm.
that, or I wish I could that superpower so I could easily do this or do that. So when you think that into the classroom, if you could
Yeah.
have one superpower to use in the classroom, what
Mm-hmm.
would it be and how would it help you?
Yeah, I would say the ability to lower my students' affective filter. And if you don't know
Oh,
about what
nice.
the affective filter hypothesis is, it basically states that negative emotions such as stress, anxiety, boredom, lack of motivation creates a psychological filter, the affective filter, that reduces a student's ability to absorb comprehensible input. So I would say my superpower would be to banish those negative emotions for my students so they don't have
Cool.
that affective filter and they could more easily learn in the classroom.
Wonderful. Thank you. Nice superpower and very useful for
Thank
effective
you.
filter. Okay, Bridget, think that we finish by the way, the time flies. There are only two questions left. Uh, you know, think that we finish our interview right now and you
Hmm.
step out your home to outside and find a lottery ticket that ends up winning $10 million. What would you do?
So I would definitely share that money with family and loved ones, but I'd probably buy a house in Ireland or somewhere else.
Nice.
And I would write that book that I just talked about. I would take some classes, some writing classes,
Yeah,
and get to writing.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Great, great. Definitely, it's a great idea to use it for your book to write.
Yeah.
It's
Thank
wonderful.
you.
Okay, so Bridget, I'm gonna ask you my last question. Are you ready for it?
Hmm.
And the most difficult one, really. It's real difficult. Here it is. What is your motto?
So I thought about this. I don't really have a motto, but I will share a quote that I remember writing on a post-it note and sticking on my desk when I was a new teacher. It's in French. It was L'aventure commence au coin de la rue, which means adventure begins at the street corner. So I always kept that in mind. I'm someone who seeks adventure. You might have guessed that from moving to France. But I had that just to remind myself that adventure could be found anywhere. So anywhere you are, you could find some adventure. So I hope everyone you go out, find your adventure, and do what makes you happy and what you love, and make a difference in the world.
Wow, it's cool. Really great. Thank you very much. Thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
Bridget. So that's all my
Thank you.
question, Bridget, right now. And before ending our live sessions, would you like to add anything else?
I think just join us in the ClassDojo Turkey community, right? On Facebook. Find us on Facebook. You're going to be there. You're going to be our ambassador, right, in Turkey, one of them. So we're going to be hopefully doing some live demo sessions in Turkish
Exactly.
about ClassDojo. So yeah, follow us the ClassDojo Turkey community on Facebook.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much, Claire. And
Thank
I would like to
you.
say one more time for accepting my invitation and being with us and for sharing your ideas, for sharing your suggestions, and especially the most important thing is, and the precious one, your time. You spend your time with us here. Thank you very much, Bridget, really.
Thank you, Volkan. Thank you so
And
much.
Bridgette Claery was with us tonight at the not Class Dojo, of course, Teacher Talks and 143rd. And we are going to be here next week if you know that on the same day at the same time every Monday at 9 p.m. Turkish time. Be careful about it. It's Turkish time. And until next week, please take care of yourself. Take care of yourself, Bridget.
You
And
too. Thank
wherever
you.
you are, everybody, take good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and peace. Bye
Bye, everyone.
bye.